This is Bures. Well, in fact, it's two villages divided by the River Stour, and it's in two counties. Bures Hamlet is in Essex and Bures St Mary is in Suffolk, and from such a pretty but unassuming place come two rather surprising tales. The first began on a spring morning in 1405 when a wave of panic spread through the town of Sudbury a few miles upstream. A monster emerged out of the waters, breathing fire at everything that moved. The townsfolk fled to their homes, locking doors and shuttering windows. A band of the brave grabbed their bows and set off to confront the beast. It was discovered close to the river, but to their surprise, any arrow striking it nearly bounced off. Unharmed, the creature returned to the waters of the Stour and headed downstream towards the villages, where it made its den in the grounds of Smallbridge Hall. What happened next was recorded shortly after the event by a Benedictine monk who wrote the following account in the Chronicles of Johannes de Troclo and Henrici de Blanford. In modern English, Johannes wrote, "Close to the town of Bures, a dragon, vast in body, with crested head, teeth like a saw, and a tail extending an enormous length, having slaughtered the shepherd and devoured very many sheep. There came forth an order to shoot at him with arrows to a workman upon whose domain he had concealed himself, being that of Sir Richard de Waldegrave, knight. But the dragon's body, although struck by the archers, remained unhurt. For those arrows bounced off his back, as if it were being iron or rock. Those arrows that fell upon the spine gave out as they struck it a ringing sound, as if they had hit a brazen plate, and then flew away by reason of the hide of the great beast being impenetrable. There was an order to destroy him. All the country, the people assembled. But when the dragon saw he was again to be assaulted, he fled away into a mere and was no more seen." The wall of Wormingford church contains a 500-word legend suggesting that the dragon was slain where Wormingford Grange now stands. Slain by a dashing knight, one Sir George of Laird de la Haye. So we have a real-time report of the legend. What else do we know that might give an explanation? Well, I'm leaning towards this. After the siege of Acre during the Third Crusade, King Richard I embarked for home, taking with him a curious creature, a cockadrill, which had been given to him amongst other gifts in return for the support that he had given to the claim of Guy of Lusignan to the throne of Jerusalem. Passing through Germany, the king, disguised as a pilgrim, still carried his dragoon with him. The king let his disguise of being a returning pilgrim slip by his lavish spending, and he was captured by Leopold, the Duke of Austria. And after the payment of a huge ransom, he was released. At the point of release, he took his pet with him. Presumably, Leopold did not consider it worth keeping. Richard returned to England, and the dragoon became part of the royal menagerie that was established in the Tower of London. This menagerie grew over time with gifts from other monarchs arriving, and examples of this are in 1235. Henry The third received 3 lions from the Holy Roman Emperor Frederick II as a wedding gift. In 1252, the King of Norway sent a polar bear, and in 1255, the French king sent an elephant. In the 16th century, the collection was opened to the public, and it moved to the newly formed London Zoo in 1826 under instructions from the Duke of Wellington, following public concerns over the well-being of animals and a series of incidents in the tower, including an early visitor, Mary Jenkinson, had been mauled to death by a lion, and a room in the tower where the public could enter to be amused at the antics of the resident monkeys ceased operations when the monkeys ripped the leg off of a small boy in 1810. A sailor was killed by a baboon throwing a cannonball at him, and a keeper was throttled by a boa constrictor. It is known the crocodiles were at the tower and there were some escapes. One full-sized example broke out of its cage and disappeared into the Thames. Proclamations and rewards were offered, but the beast disappeared. Now, a crocodile will migrate a great distance to find itself a new home, and apparently this one swam, crawled and ate its way all the way to the River Stour and infamy. The locals would clearly have no idea at what had just rocked up on their doorstep, and its skin, of course, would be very tough indeed. The story exists that the locals believed feeding it virgins would keep it happy, and once the supply of those had run out, they called for help from one Sir George of Layer de la Haye, telling him of their failure to slay the beast with arrows and the lack of local virgins to feed it. No Essex jokes. A mounted Sir George turned up to do battle. He chased the dragon down, and in this tale it put up a poor fight and was slain where the Grange now stands. Wormingford apparently had its name changed at this time. Worm, W-Y-R-M, is Old English for serpent. That said, the local historian of note, Rosemary Knox, has looked into this, and she pours cold water upon the claim. The dates don't stack up, but it's a good story. Wiston Church is an essential visit for the dragon hunter, because on the wall is an ancient picture of the beast itself, and there are many items that the enthusiast may purchase, knowing that any funds raised goes towards the maintenance of the building. As for Sir George, St George, Dragon, Saint anyone? Patron saint brings me to Edmund the Martyr. Edmund was, up until the Middle Ages, the patron saint of England. The King of East Anglia was first mentioned in the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles, which were written shortly after his death on the 20th of November 869. This occurred after the kingdom fell to a great heathen army of Vikings. He either died in battle, or by later tradition he was killed for refusing to renounce Christianity. In that account, he was beaten, shot with arrows and beheaded upon the orders of Ivar the Boneless and his brother Uber. Around 986, Abbo of Fleury wrote of Edmund's life and martyrdom. The 14-year-old Edmund is reported to have been crowned king by Bishop Humbert of Elmham on the 25th of December 855 at Bures, which was at that time the royal capital. The chronicler Gelfridus de Fontibus also described the coronation as taking place on the ancient royal hill at Bures. St Stephen's Chapel in Bures is considered to occupy that site today, and although it is far later in construction, It is a real hidden gem worth the short walk. And from the ground behind the chapel and across the Valley of the Dragon, you can see not only all the way to the Stour and to Wormingford, but you also see the beast itself, best seen as the sun sets, a giant image created on the far hillside. A dragon, a king, and 2 saints. It's amazing what you find in the countryside when you look.